Brad, it was a bit of an extraordinary tribunal case with the pinching the other night. What did you make of it all?
You see the humorous side of it, but I mean, I don't think Fremantle were making light of it, and I think that it's really important that everyone's clear that when you're summoned before the tribunal as the victim, you're compelled to tell the truth, and I implored Boomer to do that. And I thought it was a pretty ordinary case that Fremantle put forward. I mean, their defence counsel did a pretty ordinary job of trying to bait Boomer into telling him exactly what happened, so Boomer did. And the tribunal were left with the decision to basically believe who they want to believe, and they went against Ryan Crowley. So it's not for me to judge on whether Ryan did pinch him or whether he didn't. Boomer told the truth, and the tribunal made their decision. So, I think one thing about Boomer is he would have been better off playing 30 years ago, because he's such a highly skilled player and so quick and so agile. People think that he's an outside player and not tough. I mean, if that was 30 years ago and he was subjected to what he was subjected to on the weekend, he would have just dropped Ryan Crowley. But he did that in the final over in Perth last year and got 6 weeks. So, the umpires had a chance at the start of the game when Boomer was put down off the ball to pay a free kick and set the tone for the game. They didn't take it. So, I think Boomer's now at a point where he's trying to play the game. He's trying to do as we've instructed him to do and not react to any opposition defensive tactics. He did against West Coast and got 6 weeks, and he didn't on the weekend. So Brent Harvey's not the victim here, and I think we need to make that pretty clear.
Just with reference to what happened right at the start there that you mentioned, Paul Roos saw it on the couch, and he said, look, this was the chance for the umpire to make a statement, and he didn't. Is that something that you would raise with the umpire?
No. I mean, look, they do their own reviews, and I'm sure that's what they would say. I mean, but all this stuff about players' code and all that, the AFL, and like we're finding out with ASADA and WADA and all of these different bodies, players are compelled to tell the truth. And so when they're summoned to a tribunal hearing and they're asked a direct question, they answer it. And that's what Boomer did. So any discussion about players' codes and all this sort of rubbish, Boomer didn't want to go on with. Boomer would prefer that 30 years ago he could just react the way that he reacted in the final last year, but we're not prepared to have him sitting on the sidelines for 6 weeks. So we expect the umpires to do their job, and I think by and large they do that pretty well. But I think there was definitely a missed opportunity there at the start of the game, and I'm sure they'll review that.
When you say Fremantle put up a pretty ordinary case, what do you mean by that?
Oh, well, I think their motives were to try and bait Boomer into saying something he didn't want to say. And so when he was pushed and pushed and pushed, Boomer had no option but to say, look, well, if you're asking me what happened, this is what happened. And that sunk Ryan Crowley's case. So that's a pretty ordinary defence if you ask me.
And is pinching just going too far?
Oh, God. I mean, I think that we're making too much of it. I mean, unless there's death by 300 pinches, I don't think it's all that serious. But I mean, the bottom line is that the tagger's trying to get a reaction out of the tagged player. So the player's either got to be protected by the umpire or he's got to have the right to defend himself. So, for North Melbourne's sake, I'm happier that Boomer took the approach he did, because last time he reacted, he ended up being on the sidelines for 6 weeks. So that's what I'll keep instructing him to do, that he's got to make sure that he keeps control of the situation, and but he's put up with it for a long period of time, so he'll continue to do that. But he's got to make sure he maintains his discipline. Now, he gave away a 50-metre penalty, which cost us a goal directly. So there was one occasion where he wasn't able to keep control, but we'll be imploring him to make sure that he stays in control in those situations.
Greater Western Sydney, you would have looked at a lot of people would look at the fixture at the start of the season and go, yep, that's a win, but it's not going to be that easy.
No, I think the competition's starting to get to the point now where it's really healthy, because every game is a genuine chance of going either way, and people can think that's not right, but we only have to look at the results last week to prove that's the case. GWS kicked the first 5 goals against Geelong. I think they were in front against Essendon at half-time at Etihad. They've got just an embarrassing assortment of talent that they're starting to assemble. So it's going to be a really good game and a really good challenge for us. But our focus mainly, while we've got due respect for GWS and their talent and their capability, our main focus is on fixing a couple of things in our game that are just a little bit off. And unfortunately, those things being a little bit off are costing us big time in the scheme of things. So, we've got to fix those. But once we do, I'm pretty confident we'll put in a good result.
Some of your sort of really good players from last year, guys like Ferrito, Wright, Adams, haven't sort of reached those levels this year. Are those sort of players under a bit of pressure to keep their spot?
Yeah, I think fortunately we've got a lot of players under pressure because this week Robbie Tarrant will come into strong consideration. He kicked 3 goals in 3 quarters last week, and really with him it's only the assessment of whether he's ready to play a full game of AFL footy. Taylor Garner, our first pick from last year, has been in really good form. So we'll name him in our squad tonight, and we'll have a really close look at him at training today and make a decision on whether he plays, whether he comes in for his debut. Brad McKenzie's coming to the side, Aaron Black's coming to the side. So we've got a lot of players who are really knocking on the door. So that in itself puts pressure on the players in the team. But if you're not quite playing to the level you should, then that adds even more pressure. So I think we'll probably make a couple of changes this week, and that's a good thing that we've got players ready to come into the side.
Lindsay Thomas going to be right to play?
We hope so. Yeah, we hope so. He'll train today, so we've just got to make sure that he gets through that really well. But all the scans and all our medical officers are saying that he should be right. But we'll make sure that he can function at the top level, and we certainly won't risk him if he's not 100% right.
A lot of teams look at GWS's talent, and it's going to be hard for them to keep all their players. Do you take this as an opportunity to have a good look at all their different players just to get ready to knock them off, hopefully?
No, well, look, I mean, we're focused on retaining all of ours. There's no doubt they're going to have an issue retaining the players just because they've got so many good ones. I mean, I've got an enormous amount of respect for some of their young talent. We watched them really closely when they were coming through as juniors, and there are some absolute beauties in that list. But that's more for our recruiters to look at. I'm more concerned about how we stop them.
Scott McMahon, is he okay to return?
I think Scotty's touch and go. We're not going to rule him out at this stage, but we'll see how much he can get through today. But he's still got quite a few hurdles to jump before we clear him to play this week.
What about with Jack Ziebell? Will there be any subtle changes we'll notice in his game, or it's going to be same old Jack?
No, we'll just keep encouraging Jack to attack the ball in the contest. We will certainly be, as a club, speaking to Mark Evans in the AFL at the end of the year about the match review process and just making it really clear that the players have a split second to decide. I looked at Steve Johnson's decision. I mean, he's trying to intercept the ball. He's got a split second to make a decision. And I think the penalties are too harsh for those players who are genuinely trying to make a contest. And Jack fits into that category where he consistently puts himself in a vulnerable position because he attacks the contest so hard. So, we've got to make sure we keep him out on the ground. We don't want him suspended. And so we'll work on a couple of things to make sure that he gives himself a better chance to hit the ball instead of the player. And then we'll address those things with the AFL at the end of the year.
Matt Jack a chance?
Yeah, he's a chance. Yeah, he had a pretty good game for Werribee on the weekend, but then again, so did Robbie Tarrant. So they're the decisions that we're going to be up against. But it's a good position to be in because we've got a couple of players in the AFL team who aren't in great form, but we've got some other guys in the VFL team who are.
Just going back to Boomer, obviously last week he gets the best tagger in Ryan Crowley. To take the next step as a footy club, does it? The best tagger in the opposition needs to go to someone else? Yeah,
well, I didn't think Ryan Crowley would go to Boomer, so not for the first time this year. I got that wrong at match committee, but we think we've probably gone past that as a club anyway. But it's credit to Boomer that the opposition coach last week thought that he was still the main threat. So we think we're working towards that, but Boomer's still playing at such a high level that he warrants that.
Is Wellesley someone who should be putting his hand up there?
Oh, Wellesley was tagged on the weekend. Yeah, Clancy Pearce tagged Wellesley. Wellesley gets tagged more often than not. So he's pretty, but he's so dynamic and so quick that quite often he works his way into space. It's not because no one's on him, it's because they can't stay with him.